Hello, busy dads and busy people everywhere. It is a horrible day here in San Diego, but that's just the way that I like it, given my English DNA. And so I'm out here enjoying a bit of rain, sharing with you all a short video with my thoughts on proper hand placement in the burpee. It's not something that I've talked much about before, but it's something that one or two of you have recently been bringing up, asking me questions about, and I thought I would take an opportunity to share with you my own perspective on that question of how wide or narrow your hands should be when you're performing a burpee, be it a 6 count, a 4 count, a Navy SEAL, really anything with a pushing movement actually. So the 4 count is less important, but certainly with a pushing burpee, a lot of people want to know how far apart should my hands be. And I think that there is a tendency within the community to prefer a fairly narrow grip where the hands are about here. Okay, they're not wide, they're about here. Okay, but people have noticed that that's not the way that I perform the rep. My hands tend to be quite a bit wider than that. They're not super flared like that, they're about here. Okay, so that rather than having the hands basically aligned with my shoulders, they're a fair bit wider than my shoulders would be. I wanted to talk you through how I got to that place in my own training. And it's always important for me to emphasize that I came to burpee training from a powerlifting background. And in powerlifting, of course, one of the big lifts that you train is the bench press. And for the longest time, it seemed to me, from the couple of videos I'd seen, that the proper form of bench press was to have the bar at about this point. Okay, roll back your shoulders, tuck in your lats, big breath, chest to bar, push out. Okay, and if you notice, the end of the bar positioning there is about the same as where it would be in the way that many people perform the burpee with the narrower grip. Now, when I lifted like that, and I did lift like that for about a year, the bench press was my weakest lift. I was plateaued for a very long time, 110 kilograms to my 1 rep max, and I would squeeze it out, and I could hit 3 reps just about if I did a deal with the devil at 100 kilograms. Okay, and again, the 3rd rep I would always be squeezing, my triceps would be on fire, I could feel my inner chest going crazy, and it always just felt like I was just fighting against the outer limits of what I could do to get the bar up for that 3rd rep. Now, I had the honor of training with an international level powerlifter who came over from Denmark to San Diego, and we trained together for 10 weeks, and at a certain point in our time together, he said, "Max, why do you have your grip so narrow? It's not working for you." And I just thought, well, that's the way of doing it. He said, no, it's a way of doing it. Some lifters have a preference for that. But he showed me videos of other international level powerlifters with a much wider grip, and he encouraged me, why don't you try taking a fairly wide grip on the bar so that the end position of the lift, you're out here, which you'll notice is where I tend to place my hands for the burpee. And it was a game changer. Within a week, I went from being able to rep out 3 reps at 100 kilograms to 10. The thing just bounced off my chest. I felt like I could go at it all day. And the movement felt completely different. I felt a beautiful stretch across my chest. It felt like the whole of my chest was working. And the triceps, I didn't really notice them. Of course they were getting worked. Of course they were in the equation, but they weren't doing the majority of the work. And that is why, when I came into burpee training, it was very, very natural for me to have a slightly wider grip. Now, my thoughts on that are that it is down to the individual practitioner. Some of the best practitioners out there have a pretty narrow grip. I'm thinking the great James Bruce is certainly a very good example of someone with a really narrow grip, and he just has unbelievable triceps that get him through ridiculous amounts of Navy SEALs within crazy time frames. Okay, but that is not the only way of doing it. If, like me, you find that the slightly wider grip, which puts more of the work on the chest and takes a bit of the work off the triceps, if that's working for you, then my advice is go with it. It's perfectly safe. What is not safe is to have your arms like this. This puts your shoulders in danger. We don't want that, okay? We always want there to be an angle like this so that the shoulders aren't flared at a 90-degree angle to your to your trunk. And so we certainly don't want that. And a way of making sure that you're avoiding that is to look at where your hands are in relation to your head. If your hands are on the same line as your head, they're way too high. You want your hands to be about there, but they can be there consistently with you having your elbows tucked or with your elbows a little bit more flared like I do. Both are safe, and for me, the wider elbow approach is way more effective. I can get 10% more Navy SEALs or 6 counts in my time frame if I have my shoulders a bit wider. So what I recommend to you all is to experiment, okay? It is safe to perform with a slightly wider grip as I do. It is certainly safe to perform with a narrower grip. Neither is better than the other. It's really up to the individual practitioner to find what works for them. Experiment within the course of a workout, experiment across workouts until you find a form that really fits for you. We are practitioners. Each of us is an individual. Within certain parameters, there's plenty of room for experimentation, self-expression. Okay, so try it out and don't be freaked out that you don't have proper form if your arms are a little bit wider. That's totally fine. So maybe it'll help for me to demo. Okay, if your 6 count looks like this, okay, beautiful, that's totally fine. That's not what mine looks like. Mine, I'm quite a bit wider, okay? That's fine too. If you want to be a bit narrower, no problem. A little bit wider, fine too. What we don't want is something like this. Okay, that, I'm not even going to push out of that because I can feel how dangerous that is. We want the arms back a bit, but if they're back here or if they're back here, it's not really a problem. Having said all of that, I am using this slight injury that I've got from training on an uneven surface as an opportunity to revisit the narrower grip, because I'm a practitioner. I'm constantly experimenting. I'm constantly trying to find the optimal form. But when we talk about optimal form, we're talking about optimal form for the practitioner. So if your elbows are a little bit wider, as long as you don't have them too high, that's perfectly safe. Keep going. And if your elbows are super tucked in and that feels good for you, then keep going too. And so I thought that might be a valuable insight to share with all of you. I'd love to get your thoughts. But just bear in mind that, at least as far as I'm concerned, neither of those approaches is the way to place your hands. There is no such thing as the proper hand placement for the burpee. There is, I think, a range of acceptable ways of placing the hands, and those ranges are going to put different strains on different muscle groups. My chest is, I think, my most well-defined muscle group in terms of my physique, and the reason I think that it is so well-defined is that I have that slightly wider hand placement. You needn't worry that you're not going to hit your triceps. You're always going to hit your triceps in a pushing movement, but for me, the slightly wider hand placement puts more of the load on the bigger muscles, and that helps me perform more reps. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the matter. I hope this video has been thought-provoking for some of you, and I will see you all tomorrow with a really vicious little workout that I've cooked up for myself. Looking forward to it. See you then.